There are now 500 migrants, over 500 migrants, stranded in the Mediterranean on two boats. The first is this Spanish-owned NGO, Open Waters, and they've been live tweeting from the deck the conditions on board. This is now day 12. They describe themselves as being abandoned and say every day it's getting more and more difficult, and they say Europe is being silent on this issue. They've been tweeting images like this, messages that some of the people on board have written. Don't forget, we live in the sea, not in land. They say enough is enough. If we were Europeans, would you be treating us like this? They've been stuck in a deadlock, unable to land. And if we look at where they are, that gives you a clue as to why. The person who founded this NGO has said, look at the weather turning up on Wednesday. We're going to have really treacherous conditions, waves of over 2 meters. And he points to Lampedusa. We can have an indication here of where they are. Using marine traffic, we can locate this boat. It's just off the coast of the Italian-owned Lampedusa and also Malta. Both countries don't want to let this boat dock. Now, there's another boat in the Mediterranean further south with even more migrants on board. This is Ocean Viking, and you can see it's off the coast of Tripoli. They've also been tweeting. MSF have been on board rescuing migrants out in the Mediterranean who've, of course, left Libya. And they say, we've just completed yet another critical rescue. There are now 356 people aboard this ship. It's getting crowded and conditions are difficult. They also are finding it very difficult to know where to dock. Sam Turner is the head of a mission for search and rescue for MSF. He explained why.
So in terms of identifying somewhere where we can disembark rescued people, we are in contact with the maritime authorities. The principal maritime authority for the region where we're operating is Libya. And we have been consistently in contact with them in order to be able to identify a place for disembarkation, as well as generally in an attempt to coordinate the rescues themselves with the relevant authorities. Unfortunately, so far, those authorities have only identified Libya as a potential place to disembark. But considering the situation in Libya and the standing positions of organizations such as UNHCR, it is not possible for us to proceed to Libya in order to disembark these rescued people.
So what is European policy when it comes to who deals with the migrants in the Mediterranean? Speaking directly about Libya, the French President Emmanuel Macron said these people can't be left with no choice but to go and be bombed in Libya or drown in the Mediterranean. Now, his option there, he set up what was called a solidarity mechanism, him and Germany. But that doesn't seem to have any concrete measures that have been put into practice. If we look at those two landing countries, that would be Malta and Italy, for example. One of the ministers in Malta has said Malta can only shoulder its own responsibility, saying we'll rescue people in our own waters, but we won't take anyone else. Let's look at the approach of Italy. Matteo Salvini has said before, we don't want to be the refugee camp of Europe. And look at this, he's put big strikes through both of those boats, that's Open Arms and Ocean Viking, and has said, actually, we're writing to the Spanish government. They can take charge of the people on board Open Arms. It's a Spanish NGO. And also saying, I'm ready to sign bans on entries into Italian water. Ocean Viking, that doesn't have to be Italy's problem. The reality is there's no general consensus on what to do in these situations. Charlie Yaxley, for example, says rescue at sea is not complete until the rescue passengers' feet touch dry land at a port of safety. That isn't the reality for those 500 migrants still currently stranded at sea. And the EU spokesperson for migration has said this situation shows that we need temporary arrangements to provide safe and predictable landing spaces for those people on board.